What's up guys, welcome back. Well, this was quite unexpected. Last night Konami released like a small statement, well not really small, but it's kinda like a short article on their blog page, right? Leave a link in the video description, so feel free to check that one out. But I believe it caught everyone by surprise, and I have like 4 different things I want to address here in this particular video. And the first one is that this particular article, like, wow, this is fantastic. Please, Konami, do this more. This first thing, like the communication between both the player base and Konami themselves, is fantastic. Please do this more in the future. I mean, at least we have seen this in the past, right? With their, I believe it was the 2012 Forbidden and Limited list, where Konami like wanted to explain to us player base why they made some or specific changes to the ban list, right? But that didn't really work out that well, right? There was a lot of backlash from the players. The players didn't really like it, right? But for a good reason, since the explanations weren't really that fantastic on their own. And ever since, it was quite quiet on Konami's behavior. It's quite like conservative. Well, they don't really speak to the player base, right? But this now, 2019, last night, this is very solid, right? Konami keeping or starting to communicate with the player base. That's something I definitely like, right? The second thing is that in this particular article they talk about player attendance as an indicator that the game is doing quite well. And to some extent I definitely agree. If we see it past, and I can only talk about the European YCSs, so no locals or regionals level, but only YCSs, I can definitely agree. I mean, we have had here in Europe at least like astonishing records, like a lot of people attending the YCSs, like YCS Düsseldorf for example. So many players, so many people, record-breaking grounds attending the YCSs. But take these numbers with a grain of salt, since as I spoke with the Konami representative back at YCS Düsseldorf, is that, well, even though the player attendance seems quite high at these YCSs, don't overlook the fact that locals level, or the base of your, you know, the base of your game, where everything starts, your locals level, and to some extent regionals level as well, the numbers need to be high as well, since the problem here is that there might be a chance of people not being able to go to locals or have to skip locals and just go to these YCSs. So again, take these numbers with a grain of salt. Player attendance is a good indicator, but again, take it with a grain of salt. The third one here is, they also mentioned in this particular article, is a reprint of Necro Cycle, but most importantly is the release of Dual Power. And I believe in the States, but I don't think it happened for us European players, was the release date was like prolonged or was changed in the States, I believe, but not in Europe. I don't think this is like an indication to maybe some hints about the potential ban list or when we would get this particular list. But I guess you know how ban lists work, right? Release new cards, reprints, very important reprints, quite expensive reprints, and I'm looking at something like Dangers, which are not reprinted in Dual Power. But as I've spoken about in my previous ban list prediction video, is that if you can name cards that should or might get hit in the near future, it's the danger cards like Nessie, Jackalope for example. But again, those cards still aren't reprinted, so I don't feel they won't hit it, right? Maybe a semi-limitation, but that's probably not going to happen, since in this particular article they're talking about, and that's my fourth point here in this video, is they're eventually going to make some small changes, some small hits to the current top tier decks. They know some problem cards, and then, well, then it's up to us to speculate, right? We can't expect really, and that's also something they mentioned here, we can't expect an early list, but a list somewhere later, well, like more over half of April or later even than that, right? So small changes. Well, I'm looking at, as a thought, maybe I'm looking at a rank up spell card are definitely options, as I've mentioned in my previous ban list prediction video. Sky Striker seems like a no-brainer, I guess, with Kagari for example, and Gage Multi-Roll are definitely all options. And that's also something that I've mentioned in my previous video, as you know, the 90, 50, 10% challenge, where let's say you pick a certain card or a certain archetype or whatever, 90% chance that that particular thing would happen. And you know, the same logical or same thinking with 50% and 10%. So some interesting things popped up, like the rank up spell card. A huge amount of people preferred that over the Azathoth ban. I quite agree with this particular spell card getting hit right, and then the small Sky Striker hits, maybe small Thunder Dragon hits. Phantom Sky Blaster is also one of those cards that I've seen popping up, right, for good reasons. Scapegoat, for example, Grinder Golem, token generators that are hit, but why not Phantom Sky Blaster? And yeah, like a lot of people mentioned dangers as well on their list, but as I mentioned before, they still need to be, well, they still need to be reprinted, and they aren't in dual power, but again, I don't feel them being hit that soon. The same for Salamangreat, by the way, like Gazelle or their Rota Searcher, but I don't see them hitting Salamangreat just yet. So a quick article on their behalf, but again, fantastic on their part. Keep the communication live between, first of all, the player base, and second, well, the Konami themselves, of course. This is fantastic, Konami. Please continue this kind of communication. Okay, guys, again, like always, feel free to leave your, well, like, potential ban list hits, right? Thanks for watching, and feel free to leave a comment or a like if you enjoyed the video. Lead Sani out. Peace.